Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Chicago PD Season 12, Episode 18 finally gave Voight the lesson he long needed. If Sergeant Hank Voight, Jason Begg, had his own way in Chicago PD, he wouldn't tell anyone about the threat that Deputy Chief Supervisor Charlie Reed, Sean Hatosy, had become. This is something we've seen from the very beginning of the series, with Voight needing to know what everyone else is suffering with, but never leaning on his team to help him. While it's admirable to support the team, Chicago PD Season 12, Episode 18 made it clear that this sort of support works both ways. It may have taken 12 seasons of the One Chicago series, but Voight has finally realized that he doesn't need to handle everything alone. His biggest lesson arrived when Reed put one of Voight's own at risk, leading to everyone else ambushing him. Hopefully this will lead to a permanent change for the intelligence leader in Chicago PD Season 13, assuming the series is renewed. When Reed first appeared in Chicago PD Season 12, we could tell that he was going to be a threat. He'd immediately supported the idea of Kim Burgess, Marina Squirciati, getting the detective promotion, but didn't want her leaving intelligence. Burgess wanted to gain experience elsewhere, but Reed used his influence to keep Burgess with Voight's team, making it clear that he had something planned. It didn't take too long for Reed to show some of his cards and involve the rest of the Chicago PD cast. Knowing that Dan Torres, Benjamin Levy Aguilar, had broken the rules and law by having a relationship with a criminal informant and Burgess had lied to cover for him, Reed suggested that he and Voight become friends. Voight quickly found himself doing questionable things to help Reed gain power and influence throughout Chicago. As the pressure continued to weigh on Voight's mind, he needed to turn to someone to get dirt on Reed. While he could trust his team, he didn't want to put the pressure on them by knowing the political issues affecting them. Instead, he turned to Assistant State Attorney Nina Chapman, Sarah Buse, and the two have pushed to find a way to bring Reed down. That has all changed in Chicago PD Season 12, Episode 18, with Voight finally learning a lesson we had been waiting for. When Reed turned to Voight with a criminal situation, the intelligence sergeant attempted to deal with the entire situation alone. The car from the carjacking included hundreds of thousands of dollars in drugs, so naturally Reed wanted to get it, but Voight knew there was some sort of ulterior motive. Rather than pull his whole team into the potentially career-ending situation, Voight only told them the basics to help track down the carjackers. That wasn't enough for Reed, who decided to involve the rest of the team as much as possible. After Torres was involved in a fender bender despite being benched by Voight due to a shoulder injury, Reed paid him a visit to get him to follow a lead. Fortunately, Torres had the good sense to call Voight, admitting that he's dealing with insomnia, but that he felt like he couldn't say no to Reed. Torres did the right thing, and it helped Voight get some answers that he needed to get to the bottom of the case. However, the rest of intelligence knew that something else was going on, and they demanded answers. It was time for Voight to lean on his team the way that they have leaned on him in the past. Not only did they need to know all the information to crack the case, but they also needed to understand why there was extra pressure on intelligence from someone higher up, as this was the only way to keep all of them safe and sane. As much as Voight has always tried to protect his team, there are times when they need to be involved. It's admirable that Voight doesn't want to involve others in the political conflicts that can affect the team. They are then able to focus on the cases at hand without worrying about their jobs or even their freedom. However, by working in the dark, Voight takes on a lot of extra stress, and he needs to show that he trusts the other members of his team in the Dick Wolf universe. Reed has been working against the entire unit from the beginning. We saw in Chicago PD Season 12, Episode 16 that the deputy chief was putting extra pressure on Burgess, forcing her to work all hours to be able to get reports done. She had no idea at the time that this was some sort of retaliatory tactic, but by knowing what was going on politically, she could have leaned on Adam Ruzick, John Patrick Pfluger, or even spoken to Voight about this extra work. While it wouldn't have stopped Reed, others would have understood what was going on for Burgess. Voight has always had the rule for others to tell him their secrets so that he can lie for them, and this sort of relationship works both ways. He's commanded the respect and loyalty of his team, and they would happily jump into the fire with him to protect the entire unit. By not telling them, it gives off the impression that he doesn't trust them, and this needs to change in the One Chicago series. When it comes to villains in any type of series, teamwork is necessary. While Voight currently has Chapman working with him, there is only so much that she can do. She may not be willing to use dirty tactics to get the information needed on Reed to take him down, but the members of intelligence in Chicago PD are, together, they can work different angles and uncover separate but useful information that, when combined, can solve a case. They will find it easier to follow Reed to see what he is doing and who he is working with. At the same time, there's also the benefit of having more minds, meaning more ideas, and they can bounce those ideas off each other to come up with a plan that works to take Reed down. At the same time, Voight could feel less stressed knowing that he has others working with him. While he worries about his team, he can hear more of what Reed is doing to them to support them more and help them avoid burnout. With all of them working with clear heads, they stand a chance of protecting each other to end Chicago PD Season 12. For over a decade, fans of Chicago PD have followed Sergeant Hank Voight through alleys, interrogation rooms, and morally gray decisions that have made him both a hero and a walking powder keg. But in Season 12, Episode 18, titled End of Watch, the man who's lived by his own rulebook was finally forced to open it and see what it's cost him. The episode opens not with a bang, but with a silence. Voight is seen standing alone outside the precinct at dawn, coffee in hand, watching as patrol cars roll out onto the sleepy streets. There's a weight to his stance, one that's become heavier since the beginning of the season, and here in Episode 18 it all boils over. The case of the week involves a teenager named Isaiah Caldwell, gunned down in a drive-by in back of the yards. It's brutal and senseless. But what hits Voight hardest is the identity of the shooter. A former CI, Malik, whom Voight once used in a sting operation, and then discarded. Malik, Voight learns, had begged for protection months ago when his gang ties resurfaced, but his pleas had gone unanswered. When Malik is picked up, bruised and terrified, Voight storms into the interrogation room. His usual fire is there, but Malik doesn't cower. Instead, he looks Voight dead in the eye and says, "You made me think I mattered, then you left me for dead." For a second, just a second, Voight falters. And that's the thread this episode pulls on. Throughout the hour, Chicago PD does something rare. It slows down. The action gives way to reflection, and the result is one of the show's most introspective episodes to date. Voight tries to track down evidence, press witnesses, and push the case forward with the same tenacity he always has, but everywhere he turns, there are echoes of his past. He runs into ASA Chapman, who flatly tells him that Internal Affairs has reopened several cases connected to his unorthodox methods. She doesn't sound smug, just tired. "You can't keep calling it justice when bodies keep piling up behind you," she says. Even Halstead's name comes up again, gone but not forgotten. Ruzek quietly tells Atwater that Jay would have hated this. "The old Voight's still in there," Ruzek says, "but maybe the city can't afford him anymore." Meanwhile, the intelligence team splits their focus. Haley Upton uncovers that Malik, despite his relapse into the gang, had been working a job and attending therapy. She finds a voicemail he left for Voight 2 months ago. Unheard, still sitting in Voight's inbox. "I'm trying, Sarge," Malik had said, "but I can't do this alone." The message hits Voight like a punch to the gut. In a powerful scene, he returns to his office alone and replays the voicemail. Over and over. His expression doesn't change, but his silence says more than any outburst ever could.